Hey everybody, what's going on? I am Gregg Sussman, joined today by Jim Sanas of FanDuel. What's up, Jim?
It is all good here, Greg. Definitely interesting time in the time of sports, but still some baseball to talk about, at least for now. And I think that, it's nice to get a little bit of a reprieve from Twitter right now and all the strange stuff going on and talk some baseball and think about happier days. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. It's obviously a weird time, like you mentioned, with sports going away for a little while. But at some point, there will be baseball, and we will begin the season. And we want to help you begin the season by telling you 6 breakout pitchers that are worth drafting this season. Let's begin with your favorite breakout pitcher, and that is Tyler Glasnow, who broke out last year before getting hurt, and that's kind of been a thing with him. Are you nervous about him staying healthy over a full season?
Yeah, I think you're nervous about that with Tyler Glass now, but you're nervous about that with literally everyone who throws a baseball because the injury rate at the position is so high. It's hard for me to avoid a player simply because of that. Yeah, some players are more likely to get hurt than others, but are we sure that Glass now is actually in that category? And the way that I looked at things here from a breakout perspective is I wanted to pinpoint players I think are going lower this year than they will next year. And I think that Glass now, despite being just outside the top 20 of pitchers, is someone who could do that just because of how good he was before that injury last year. In his 12 starts, he had a 3.18 skill interactive ERA. His strikeout rate was 33% with a 6% walk rate, and he did all that while also allowing just a 29% hard hit rate. Now, Glasnow did miss a lot of time, and I think those injuries are a legitimate concern. And we didn't see him come back at the end of last year as we did for some other guys on this list. But looking at him this spring, he's been sharp. He has struck out 5 of the 12 batters he has faced with just 1 walk. So, yeah, he is not super cheap, but I think he is one of these players who could be going higher next year than he is this year. If he puts together a full season, this dude, like, the sky's the limit for him with that strikeout rate being as high as it is. So I think that there's some risk with Glass now, but that is a risk that is present everywhere else too. So I'm willing to take the plunge here and see if I can get him to ping a full season of health.
You're right. Everybody is a injury question mark. Of course, every pitcher specifically. Tyler Glasnow was absolutely fantastic last year for the Rays when he pitched. Hopefully that breakout continues for a full season here in 2020. Up next, we move over to Max Fried, a guy I really like. Had a nice season last year, but it's the walks that are concerning. If you could put those away, well, he's going to be a really nice selection on draft day. But looking at spring training, I don't know that he's been able to.
Now, the walks have been very present in spring. That is very true, Greg. And I think that if you're going to worry about things during spring, you should worry about strikeout rate and walk rate. And those are concerns for Max Fried. But the reason I like Max Fried is that he made a change last year. And he showed adaptability. That is encouraging for me when pitchers are struggling. They show the ability to change and mix up their pitch repertoire and get things on the right path, which makes me feel better about Fried despite those struggles. Specifically, he started throwing a slider more often. And what that gave Max Fried was 2 really good off speed pitches. And he was really effective once he started to lean more on that slider. Over his final 16 starts last year, he had a 3.65 skill interactive ERA with a 27% strikeout rate. And that walk rate did go down to 7%. So still not super low, but also not super high. He did all that while getting a 52% ground ball rate. And if you get a pitcher who can combine strikeouts with ground balls, they're going to be a pretty valuable person because it should keep down the ratios and make them more steady while still having that upside from the strikeouts as well. I think that Fried is especially intriguing when you compare him to his teammate Mike Soroka, who's probably not going to get those strikeouts. Soroka is going about 10 positions higher among starting pitchers than Max Fried in baseball drafts right now. And Fried is actually someone I feel better about straight up over Soroka. So I think that the walks are definitely concerning, and if you're going to look at spring training stats, that's one you should look at for sure. But with the changes Max Fried made during last year, which made him better as the season went along, I feel confident he can figure this thing out, get things back on track, and lock in for a full good season. And if he does what he did down the stretch last year, that full season would be really, really good.
Absolutely. If he can get the walks under control, he's in line for a monstrous season. His stuff is better than Mike Soroka's even. I always remember last spring, Freddie Freeman being asked, like, who's the best young starter on this staff? Who has the filthiest stuff? And he always answered Max Fried. And I always kept that in the back of my mind. I'm a Max Fried guy. I'm excited to draft him on draft day. Up next, it's been a breakout pitcher for many years now. It's Julio Urias for the Los Angeles Dodgers, getting a chance to be in the starting rotation, although you do know those Dodgers are a little bit tricky, and they'll probably pull him and put him back and pull him again. Not sure what to do with that innings limit, But Urias certainly has the talent.
Yeah, the talent is there. The question with Urias has always been about the workload, and part of that's been self-inflicted because he was suspended 20 games after being arrested for domestic battery. So it's not just injuries, it's not just bad luck, it's been self-inflicted as well. With the Dodgers, I'm a bit less concerned about the workload this year with the injured list being up to 15 days. That gives them a bit less leeway to play around a pitcher's time because that means they're missing 2 starts rather than missing just one. That's a good thing. There's also less depth in that rotation now than there was last year with guys like Kenta Maeda and Rich Hill being gone. So I think that's also beneficial for everyone in this rotation. And Urias, I think, would benefit as well. He made 8 starts last year. It was only 30 and a third inning, so it wasn't a super big sample. It's not like he was going 6 innings per start, but in that time, he had a 29% strikeout rate. His walk rate was 6%, so did flash talent then. When he was a starter back in 2016 as well, he had a 25% strikeout rate. So I think that all bodes well for Julio Urias. The good thing too is that he's also on a good team. So even if the ratios may not be that great, you know that you're probably going to get wins out of this guy because the Dodgers offense is so good. Gives you a bit of a better floor with Julio Urias. The strikeouts should be there. He's not a super high walk guy. The stuff is there, and I think the safety around the workload is higher now than it has been in previous years, specifically with this Dodgers team due to the changes in the IL and the changes in the depth of their rotation. So Urias definitely has some red flags around him for sure, but I think given the certainty that he's in this rotation, given the upside that he has, and the fact that he's not all that expensive right now, he is still someone I'm willing to take when his ADP comes up.
Absolutely. And again, the talent is there. You're right. He did have that 20-game suspension last season, and there have been some question marks about the makeup, but the stuff is really, really good. I do worry about the carousel with the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's been very frustrating to own Dodgers starters in the past. Hopefully this year it's different, especially with Urias. Jose Urquidy next on your list of breakout potential starters. And it's funny because in Houston, we've been waiting for Forrest Whitley for a long time. I know he had a down year last year, but he's always been the guy. And Jose Urquidy kind of came out of nowhere to have a solid, if unspectacular season. Why is this year going to be his breakout?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because a lot of times when we're talking breakout pitchers, we're talking younger guys. And most younger guys have issues with control, they walk players, and that makes them a concern. That's kind of the strength of Jose Urquidy, is avoiding walks because he had a 4% walk rate overall last year in the majors, which is nuts. It was 6% in AAA, so not even a small sample size thing. This dude just peppers the zone, and that's beneficial. And it's not like he's just, serving up meatballs either, because in his 7 starts in the majors, a 26% strikeout rate to go with that 4% walk rate. And that means that he does have upside in his strikeouts too. And that 26% could go up. His strikeout rate was 32% in AAA. So I think that's all beneficial. Now, the one downside with Urquidy is that his batted ball numbers over a small sample did show some signs of potential concern down the road. So maybe we have a Shane Bieber type situation back in the past when Bieber really struggled with hard contact. I could see that being a thing. But Urquidy, that's my one concern that I have with him right now. But he's probably going to be in this rotation. Seems like pretty much a lock at this point. And he doesn't have the one big red flag that most guys in a breakout type category would have with that low walk rate. So he's got a lot of the components you want to try to pinpoint a pitcher with high upside. I definitely like that. So even though I still am at least monitoring the batted ball numbers around Urquidy, I'm willing to take that risk because the cost to item is not all that high, and the upside definitely is.
Upside could be there. And Urquidy, like you said, not your typical guy that you would think of as a breakout candidate. But right now, he is that kind of player. So consider putting him onto your rosters on draft day. Let's continue on and find more breakout candidates. And up next for us, it's Luke Weaver, another almost post-hype guy. When he came up with the St. Louis Cardinals, he was really good, then broke out, or so we thought. He was ready to break out, and, well, he didn't. He got hurt and then got traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks and wasn't on anyone's radar last year until he pitched pretty well. Now he's back, Jim. Who is the real Luke Weaver?
Yeah, Luke Weaver breakout number 3 incoming here, hopefully, because why not? Let's do it once again. But I think that he's really intriguing compared to his teammate Zach Gallen. We're talking about Fried compared to Soroka. Zach Gallen is going 17 starting pitcher slots ahead of Luke Weaver right now in Fantasy Pros, and I get it. I love Zach Gallen. He's awesome. but it seems like Luke Weaver is more of a lock to make this rotation. And I think that that's valuable. And he was also really good last year before he got hurt. He made 11 starts before the injury. And in those 11 starts, Luke Weaver had a 27% strikeout rate with a 6% walk rate, combining for a 3.83 skill interactive ERA. Now, Weaver did miss a lot of time last year, and that's a concern. But the thing that I love about what Luke Weaver did last year is that he came back at the end of the season. People forget that he actually did make a start at the end of the year, which means he technically ended 2020 healthy and had a full bill of health, a clean bill of health for this entire offseason. I value that a lot. It makes me feel really good about Luke Weaver's health heading into this year. Now, he's kind of like Max Fried, where the spring training numbers for Luke Weaver have not been super sharp, but there's still some time to go. And I think that what we saw last year is pretty legit. Again, I'm not off of Zach Gallen. I'm actually very much in line with his ADP, with where I have in my starting pitcher rank. It's not saying not to draft Zach Gallen, but I think we shouldn't allow our adoration of Gallen to have us overlook Luke Weaver, who is actually going below him in drafts. I like both. I'm okay with having both on my roster for sure. But I think between the two relative to cost, I'd rather go Luke Weaver with breakout number 3 coming up this spring.
Let's get that final breakout from Luke Weaver. Let's make it real. Let's make him someone that can anchor our teams. And hopefully this is the year with a sneaky Diamondbacks team. Luke Weaver doesn't cost you all that much in drafts, but could pay off in huge dividends on draft day. One final pitcher to get to, and I'm super high on this guy. He cost you nothing in drafts, and that's Dylan Cease, a Dalahala type of player, but somebody that has top prospect pedigree. We talked before with Max Fried about walks. It's the same for Dylan Cease. We saw Lucas Giolito a year ago make this jump. Hasn't really happened with Reynaldo Lopez, but maybe Dylan Cease can do it along with his teammate, Michael Kopech.
Yeah, you list a lot of White Sox pitcher names there, Greg, and I think that's actually oh, that's a good thing. No, that's a good thing. I agree with that because we've got Yasmani Grandal there this year, and I think I mean, it's been talked up a good amount how Grandal is a really good framer, but that actually is a legitimately good thing to have for such a young staff that occasionally does struggle with walks. So that 10% walk rate last year for Dylan Cease, if that comes down, there are a lot of good things in his profile. He made 14 starts in the big leagues last year with a 24% strikeout rate and a 46% ground ball rate. And it's a kind of a small sample to look at ground ball rate, but that ground ball rate was also high throughout the minors too. So I think that is a skill that Dylan Cease has. The strikeouts, not that bad at 25%, and I definitely think that's intriguing. He had more strikeouts when he was down in Double-A, so I think the strikeout upside is there. And if Yasmani Grandal can get these guys a couple extra strikes, that could make a pretty big difference for everyone on this team. So even though Reynaldo Lopez, as you mentioned, hasn't put it all together, I am okay taking stabs at him. I'm okay with Kopech and his like 115 mile per hour fastball. That's totally cool by me. But Dylan Cease doesn't have the same workload concerns as a guy like Kopech does. He is going later in drafts than him. And I think that he has similar upside. So Dylan Cease, like you said, basically free right now. If you want him, you can get him with your last pick in a draft. And I think I am inclined to do so. There is upside with this entire staff, with Yasmani Grandal being there. Dylan Cease has some of the components you need to be a really good pitcher. And I think once you add that all up, it's pretty easy to fall in love with him.
Didn't take me long. It didn't take me nearly as long as that statement there, Jim. I'm all in on Dylan Cease and this White Sox team. I think they're a good bet to have a really nice season, and it all stems from that pitching staff. And the hitting, like Yohan Moncada and Tim Anderson and Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert and Edwin Encarnacion. Yeah, I like the White Sox this year. That's going to do it for us here on the FanDuel Hurry Up. Jim, we appreciate the time. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Greg. Same to you as well. Stay safe, everybody out there. Be smart, and hopefully we get to talk some MLB soon, but once the time is appropriate, for sure.
Absolutely true. All right. For Jim Sonis, I'm Gregg Sussman. We'll be back here tomorrow. We hope.